You're in the Military with Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in the world on the 8th of May of 2026. Today we have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. Today is the 8th of May of 2026, which means that we are just several hours before the beginning of the 9th of May, the most important day for the Russian Federation, at least as of the spring military campaign. The Russians, Russia, Belarus, and many other countries celebrate the 9th of May, the Victory Day. This is a very important holiday. This is a very important day for both the Russians, for Belarusians, and probably for some Ukrainians, maybe even. And during this day, according to information we have, the Ukrainians are going to attack the territory of Russia with drones. At least we can make this conclusion based on the statements that were made by the president of Ukraine, Zelensky. He made lots of statements during the previous 24 hours. He said that the Ukrainian military will act in mirror-like manner and respond to shelling with shelling. Morning strikes on Russian territory were a response to similar strikes on Ukrainian territory that most likely took place yesterday. The military will respond to drone usage and air strikes with mirror-like responses. Tomorrow's events depend on today's developments, which may indicate a mutual ceasefire on May 9th. So this is the statement of the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, and of course, when talking in particular this statement, we see that he hasn't made a final decision whether to attack the territory of Russia or not. We're talking about the most important and about the most major attack, most likely, that may take place during the parade on the territory of the Red Square or something like this. But at the same time, Zelensky doesn't know for sure whether the Ukrainians are able to carry out this attack. Because if you remember, during the previous days, we discussed the air defense around the city of Moscow. And we have already discussed this picture, and according to this picture, the Russians managed to reinforce their positions around the capital of the Russian Federation. The sources stated that hundreds of air defense systems were recorded around the city of Moscow. So telling the truth, Zelensky and the Ukrainians have zero chances to break through this layered air defense. Because as of the current situation, since the beginning of May's ceasefires that started on the 6th of May of 2026, according to Zelensky's ceasefire that he announced several days ago, the Ukrainians have already launched thousands of drones in the direction of the Russian Federation, and most of these drones were destroyed by Russians. For example, during the previous 24 hours, the Ukrainians launched around 1,000 of drones. Between, for example, 12 p.m. and 4 p.m., the Ukrainians launched 82 drones. Between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m., the Ukrainians launched 101 drones. During the night, the Ukrainians, during the morning, the Ukrainians launched 145 drones. During the night, the Ukrainians launched 264 drones. And during the previous evening, the Ukrainians launched 95 drones. So hundreds of drones have been launched by the Ukrainians, and we still haven't received anything on the results of this attack, which means that either the Ukrainians are launching decoys just with the purpose to exhaust the Russian air defense forces, or from the other side, the Russians' air defense shows significant results, and the Russians are basically burning down everything they record and they spot in the airspace of the Russian Federation. Of course, there are some exceptions. For example, during the previous 24 hours, we received the video from the city of Yaroslavl, and here we can see the consequences of the Ukrainian attack that took place during the nights between the 7th and the 8th of May, and we see that something was hit by the Ukrainians. Here we can see the same episode but from another angle, and during the another period of day we have a fire. We have something that was destroyed as a result of the Ukrainian attack. We have videos from the settlement of Perm. Once again, the Ukrainians managed to break through Russia's air defense and attack the Perm energy infrastructure. Something was hit, and we have videos from the most southern parts of the Russian Federation, from the Chechnya Republic, and here we can see the Ukrainian drone that attacked the building of the Russian Special Forces, Special Agency, Government Office of FSB. And of course, we have lots of videos from the city of Rostov, and as a result of the Ukrainian attack, the Ukrainians managed to destroy something. We have a picture of a very black smoke over the city. We have several videos that were published by civilians, but summarizing everything, when talking that the Ukrainians launched almost 1,000 of drones since the beginning of the 6th of May of 2026, we see that the Ukrainians shown a very poor performance, so zero results basically from these attacks. So almost everything was brought down by the Russians, or the Ukrainians were using decoys. As of the previous day attack, as of the 8th of May of 2026, probably the Ukrainians managed to create just one critical situation for Russians. As a result of attack, the Ukrainians managed to destroy and to damage a government office that was responsible for the coordination of aircrafts and airplanes in the southern parts of Russia. So this is the article and this is the statement, this is the situation that was published by the Russian government office. 13 airports in southern Russia have suspended operations due to a drone entering the Air Navigation Administration building. The Russian Ministry of Transport, the operations of the airports in Astrakhan, Vladikavkaz, Volgograd, Gelendzhik, Grozny, Krasnodar, Makhachkala, and many other different towns and cities have been temporarily suspended, the ministry reported. So this is basically the only damage that the Ukrainians using thousands of drones managed to deal to the Russians. But telling the truth, this situation was noted by the president of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin. He stated that that was a terrorist attack, and just the professionalism of government workers who managed to save the situation with aircrafts didn't lead to the situation with mass casualties among civilians. And the president of the Russian Federation recognized this attack on this building, on this government office, as a terrorist attack, which means that probably the president of the Russian Federation has already underlined the situation that can be used by the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation as a base, as a legal, as a something that can probably explain or that the Russians can use as something to attack the territory of Ukraine with missiles and with the Oreshnik system. So as we can see, everything is complicated, but we see that during the 8th of May of 2026, despite thousands of drones that were launched by the Ukrainians deep inside of the territory of the Russian Federation, we see no results. But today is not the 9th of May, today is just the 8th of May, which means that maybe the Ukrainians today are trying to test different directions of Russia, trying to test different parts of Russia on the matter of their air defense capabilities. And of course, if the Ukrainians during the 8th of May are able to find some part of Russia that is completely unprotected when talking about air defense, of course, maybe tomorrow the Ukrainians will attack this part of Russia with hundreds or maybe even thousands of drones with the purpose to deal significant damage. All these things we will understand tomorrow, but the most important thing and a very important statement that was made during the previous 24 hours by the Russians is the following. The Russians stated that, I want to say with complete frankness and full responsibility, if what resurgent Nazis in the West are now doing through Ukraine continues, there will be no mercy for them. And that was stated by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sergei Lavrov, which means that most likely he knows what he was talking about. Another important thing is that tomorrow the Prime Minister of Slovakia will visit Moscow. He will go to Moscow with a mission from Zelensky. This is how all these things are being described. During this visit to Moscow, the Slovak Prime Minister will deliver a message from the Ukrainian President to Putin. Fico may also gain valuable information from Putin about how the Russian President sees efforts to end the war. So this is a very important situation. Federation. And you know that right after this article, we received another message, a few more messages, both from the Western countries, from Ukraine, and from the Russian Federation. For example, today the Russians stated a very interesting situation about the European Union. The Russians stated let's discuss this statement in details. First, let's find this statement on the map. Russia will not initiate contacts with the European Union on its own, although it is ready to move forward in dialogue as far as Europe is willing to do so. The initiator of the complete breakdown of relations between Russia and the European Union was Brussels. Putin is ready for talks with everyone, including the European Union. So this is something like, let's say, an answer to this message that most likely the Prime Minister of Slovakia is going to bring to the President of the Russian Federation. And another important statement on this matter was made today by Rubio, by the Secretary of State of the United States of America. Rubio admitted that U.S. might withdraw from the Ukraine negotiations and American efforts to end the conflict have stalled. We have attempted to play a mediating role in this process. So far, this has not led to a fruitful outcome, or for a number of reasons. We remain willing to play the role if it can be productive. We do not want to waste our time and invest energy in efforts that do not produce progress, the U.S. Secretary of State stated. So it seems that the United States of America is willing to quit the negotiation process, the peaceful settlement process between Ukraine and the Russian Federation, and it seems that currently everybody is ready to use Europe as a mediator part in this process. Both the Russians are ready, and of course the Ukrainians are always ready for this situation. Maybe this is just a statement before the beginning of the 9th of May. The Russians are trying just to reduce the pressure over this holiday, over these days, and they just want to show their other side that they're ready for the negotiation process. But from their other side, the Russians are doing this just with the purpose to secure and to make as secure as possible the situation during the 9th of May that is going to happen tomorrow, because everything is possible tomorrow, including massive strikes from the Ukrainian side. And of course, massive casualties is also something that is possible during the 9th of May of 2026. And of course, the Russians are trying to do everything they can with the purpose to avoid this situation. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation on the ground. During the previous 24 hours, we received lots of very important updates. We have already covered most of the updates during the previous video, but during the day we received a very interesting update from the Slaviansk direction. The Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation during the 8th of May of 2026 has reported that the Russians, as the result of offensive operation, managed to establish complete control over the settlement by the name of Kriva Luka. And these are the changes on the ground between the dates based on the report that was published by Russians. So this is the situation by the end of the 7th of May of 2026. Just several days ago, the Russians answered the settlement of Piskunovka and they crossed the river of Seversky Donetsk. So probably it's better to start this analysis from the 4th of May of 2026 when basically everything started. So this is the end of the 4th of May. This is the end of the 5th of May. The Russians crossed the river of Seversky Donetsk. This is the end of the 6th of May. The Russians, according to different sources, improved their position significantly through the settlement of Kriva Luka, through its eastern part. This is the situation by the 7th of May. We have additional changes along the river of Seversky Donetsk and through the central part of the settlement of Piskunovka. And this is the situation by the end of the 8th of May of 2026. The Russians stated that they have captured this village. Most likely, in coming days, we'll receive additional updates, videos with geolocations and with the Russian flags. Telling the truth, I expected these videos today, but for some reason the Russians decided not to publish these videos today. Probably they decided to move these videos for tomorrow, because I do believe that tomorrow we'll see lots of videos of this type, Russian flags raised through the entire line of combat contact, and probably sometimes at places we don't expect. For example, from the area of the city of Konstantinovka, we believe we'll see several flags, probably from the area of the city of Liman. We'll see several flags, and of course, the Kupiansk direction, most likely we'll see several flags from this area as well. And tomorrow we expect lots of changes on the ground. Probably, but maybe not. So these are the changes on the ground. And as for the Kriva Luka, as for the settlement, this is one of the most important villages on the direction of the city of Slaviansk, because this village is located through strategic elevations along the river of Seversky Donetsk. The Russians managed to capture this territory. The Russians managed to take under complete control up to 60% of strategic elevations, strategic hills, which means that the Russians have possibilities to improve their positions, to establish additional equipment, and to establish complete control over the territory between the settlements of Kriva Luka, Kaleniki, Lipovka, Fedorovka, Druga, and the settlement of Nikolaevka. So the rest of the between rivers territory, we're talking about the rivers of Seversky Donetsk and Seversky Donetsk-Donbass Canal, will be under complete fire control from the Russian side. And for example, today we received lots of videos, as you can see, from the area between the settlements of Nikolaevka and Alexandrovka, lots of FPV drone strikes through the main logistic lines in this area, which means that the Russians have already established almost complete 100% control over the territory, which means that the Ukrainians most likely will not be able to hold their positions for a very long period of time under such a pressure from the Russian side.
Only a few people know what orange peel can actually do. Stop throwing out your orange peels.
As for the city of Konstantinovka, we have lots of changes, we have lots of updates, but we don't have changes. The Russians continue pressuring the Ukrainian positions, trying to force them to fall back from this area without significant resistance from the Ukrainian side. But the Ukrainians are trying to hold their lines for as long as possible. The Dobropolye-Drushkovka direction, during the previous 12 hours, the Russians once again improved their positions. Now we're talking about sabotage and reconnaissance groups of the armored forces of the Russians. The Russians continue advancing further in the northern direction, trying to cut the main logistic line TO514 between the cities of Dobropolye and Kramatorsk. If Russians are able to cut this road physically or to establish fire control over this territory, this will lead to unpredictable consequences for the armored forces of Ukraine in the area of the cities of Kramatorsk, Drushkovka, Konstantinovka, and Slaviansk. As for the Zaporozhye direction, during the previous 24 hours, we received lots of updates. It seems that the Russians are preparing themselves before the beginning of the 10th of May of 2026. Most likely the Russians during the 10th of May will carry out massive attack through the territory of Ukraine using hundreds of drones and thousands of drones and hundreds of missiles. And after this attack, most likely somewhere on the 10th and 11th of May of 2026, we'll start receiving lots of updates about changes on the ground and about the Russian movement through the line of combat contact. And as we discussed during the previous videos, most likely the Russians will start doing something through the Chernihiv region, because as we discussed during the previous videos, currently there is a very big and probably even very huge fire anomaly. Fire broke out from nowhere in this area, very big fire covering the entire northern parts of Chernihiv region, and there are just several options. Either the Ukrainians are responsible for this situation and their main purpose is not to allow the Russians to move further, or the Russians set the forest on fire with the purpose to use this cover, use this protection as a natural protection to move further in the southern direction, or maybe it's just a natural situation without any responsibilities, neither from the Russian nor from the Ukrainian side, but even from this perspective, somebody can use the situation to improve their position significantly. So we are just several hours before the beginning of the 9th of May. Everybody is waiting for this day, and everybody is still thinking whether the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, will attack the territory of Russia or not, the territory of Moscow or not. So we'll see what is going to happen next. We have covered most of the updates regarding the conflict on the territory of Ukraine. Now let's